What up, y'all? It's Ron Petway, aka Waytoven, aka the Great Toe, aka Jingly Poe. And I just wanted to, I think in my last video, I touched on this, but I didn't really tell the whole story. And I just wanted to share again the sequence of events that happened that led me to where I'm at right now, which is working at quite possibly my last normal job, which is a restaurant. And so it must have been November 12th. I woke up. I had been working in gas stations and retail for probably 7 or 8 years, and lots of ups and downs, lots of negative interactions with people, lots of negative environments. And so November 12th, I wake up to the biggest nosebleed I've ever had in my whole life. Like I must have lost, I don't know, I must have lost like half a cup of blood. Matter of fact, I'll show y'all some of the pictures that I just had to take because they were so fucking wild. Stand by. 1 second. Alright, so here's one of them. It's just a big ass chunk of life and shit. And then here's another one. Looks like strawberry fucking syrup. And so I lost so much blood that I felt weak going into work at Dollar General. And I walked in there and then I got fired because they was taking money out of my paycheck, so I gave away all their groceries, and I'll do it again. Because at the end of the day, the amount of smiles and gratitude and thankfulness that I received from all the people I helped out, whether that be giving somebody a fucking 90% discount, or whether that be just flat out giving somebody something because they needed it. The look of relief and gratitude and gratefulness on their face means more to me than a fucking $25 billion corporation losing $10 or $5 or $2, $3, whatever. And most of the times, I'll be honest, most of the times it was out of just a kindness, and then sometimes it was out of spite, because you shouldn't be stealing from people if you have $24 billion. But so nonetheless, I got to work, and Courtney, my manager, called me into her office and fired me. And this is a poor looking girl. You can tell she'd probably been on opioids at some point in her fucking life. But nonetheless, I'd always been cool with her. As a matter of fact, that was like the only person who I really talked to. And then, but she fired me, and she goes, well, after she told me that I'm gonna have to let you go because you've been giving people discounts and you've been voiding items and still been letting them walk out of the store with our shit, I told her I would say I feel bad, and I would feel bad but y'all been taking money out of my paycheck, so I don't. And then so one thing led to another. I get fired, I walk out, and then 2 days later, my best friend gets me a job at his restaurant. But I knew something was up spiritually. You know, I knew spiritually something was up. And so I looked on Google and I found, basically I went to Google and I looked up what getting a really big nosebleed right before you get fired could possibly mean. And it basically said that in most spiritual and cultural interpretations, a nosebleed immediately prior to being fired would likely be linked to intense stress, the release of pent-up energy and emotion, or a symbolic cleansing to prepare for a new phase in life. The amount of negative bullshit and the amount of just flat out bullshit that I dealt with working for gas stations and convenience stores, and I worked at Academy for a little bit, so it was another retail job. But the amount of bullshit and the amount of, I don't even know if trauma is the real word, but just the amount of shit that I went through in those 7 or 8 years since I had last been in a restaurant was insane. And obviously, as you know, I got a project coming out. It's called the Black Jubilation. I've kind of been manifesting this new phase in my life for the past, ever since I was about maybe 25. And I think I said in my last video, or one of my last videos, I said that 25 I started playing piano, 26 I told myself, and unbeknownst to me at the time, I told God and the universe that I wasn't going to retire a normal person, that I was going to be a legend. And 27, I got fired from my gas station job of 6 years. I met my wife, or fiance, or whatever. And then, well, actually, I lost all my money right before we met. And then that entire year was spent going to war with jobs and shit like that over hours and insurance and shit like that. Tail end of 28, going on 29. That's whenever I finally kind of had my blueprint together. That's whenever I finally was able to, write down notes and come up with plans and shit like that, just about the project and releasing it and working on it. And I actually figured out how to record my piano into my phone. Must have been right before I turned 29, so like in the middle of 28. And then so 29, that's whenever it was looking like this is probably gonna be it. Like this project is probably gonna be my last chance at life. And so here we are at another restaurant. But again, for some reason, I had been feeling like God or the universe was putting me in the position I am now to make sure that I never forget where I came from. Because just in case you missed one of the last videos that I made, the first ever 2 jobs that I worked at was a restaurant doing prep, dish, and fry, and Dollar General right after that. It was actually next door. And so 11 or 12 years later, so many things led to one another that now I'm in a restaurant again right after having left Dollar General. So I'm right back where I started at 17 or 18. And then so I also looked up if that was a thing. You know, I looked up if that was a thing. And then it goes, because, you know, I typed into Google, I said, is it possible that God will remind you never to forget where you came from just before you're about to become great and do something meaningful and big? And it goes, yes. It's a common spiritual theme that God uses moments of impending success or significance to prompt a reflection on one's humble beginnings, fostering humility and gratitude, often through inner nudges, memories, or challenging circumstances that remind you of past struggles and God's faithfulness, preventing pride and keeping you grounded in His power. This divine prompting ensures you remember your journey, acknowledge His hand in your growth, and stay connected to Him rather than relying on self-achievement. I went through a lot of shit to get this fucking interface that I think I mentioned that this was the last piece that I needed to finish my project, and I finally got it. Came in the mail yesterday, hooked it up, it works great, and now I just have maybe two or three more songs to record. And I'm scared, but I'm not scared to record. I think it's just I'm a bit nervous because I think I can really feel that things are about to change for me. And I feel like all these habits that I've become so accustomed to these past, God knows, 12 years, I think the breaking of those habits and the breaking away from this lifestyle is kind of making me like nervous. But I know I have no other choice. You know, I know that I have no other choice but to do this. I have no other choice and no other path that's gonna, you know, kind of garnish me a fucking, you know, a house, let alone an apartment, be able to take care of this fucking girl who saved my life, and to give me any type of glorious life. But the kicker is, this is exactly what I asked for. I asked to be put in a position where I had no other choice but to chase my dream. And, yeah. It was December 12th. Christmas is right around the corner. I'm thinking that this project is probably going to come out on Christmas Eve. I'm not sure though. It'll definitely be out before New Year's. But yeah. Some of the people who are closest to me don't seem to understand what I'm coming from, but then again, I think they do. I just don't really think they know how to process it. So I've been feeling like I stand alone, which is fine because I'm so used to that shit my whole life. But yeah, this project, it's about to be done. I got a rough draft done. I just went from recording from the interface into my phone to recording from the interface into my computer, and I think that's the way. Because this phone's great, but this is just such a professional interface that like I gotta do it into the fucking computer, you know. And I guess I'll close out with the story of whenever I found my calling, which was playing Christmas piano, basically. So I was 25 years old. I was working at MAPCO, which is a gas station. I know those bitches aren't everywhere, and they've sold a bunch of them, you know. I gotta take these calming supplements because I'm sober. But so I was 25 years old. I had been working at that gas station for maybe since I was 21, so whatever, 4 or 5 years. And whenever I turn 25, I say I gotta do something with my life. And then so to me that meant going and working at a fucking warehouse. So my one friend, Bryce, he gets me a job at his warehouse that he's working at, or that he was working at. It was called a CTDI. It was a tech warehouse. You can probably tell just by looking at me that I don't give a fuck about cords and modems and shit like that. I was really playing myself, but nonetheless, shit happens. So I worked there. I started working there. The first 2 months were cool. The first 2 or 3 months were cool, and then I swear, right after those 2 or 3 months, every day that I would walk in there, I had a pain right in the middle of my chest. It wasn't my heart, it wasn't my stomach, but I had this unbearable like pain right in the middle of my fucking sternum. Because I hated that job so much that I think my soul was literally dying. And so one day, and you know, I had these 2 fucking managers. One of them's name was Stephanie. Everybody hated her. She would talk crazy to people. All right, now go make my money. I had this other manager, Josh, who was a cool guy, but a half a fruitcake, if I'm being honest. Didn't really like both of them. Nobody really liked both of them. There was old people working there that, you know, hopefully they found out what they really wanted to do with their life, because, I mean, we're talking about 55, 60-year-old people having to come in and answer to a fucking, like, 22, 23, 24, 25-year-old. And they hated that shit. But one day, I'm sitting there. I had been beefing with Stephanie, which was the manager, the female manager. I had been beefing with her so hard just because she kept doing shit that it seemed like she was intentionally trying to piss me off. and make me do something to the point where like I just left. And I remember one day I was sitting there and I was testing these routers or modems, you know, so it was like a rack. And I just, you know, they're just full of routers and shit. And I was testing them. And all of a sudden I just stopped. I just stopped in my tracks. And, you know, it's built on, you know, the warehouse. You know, it's all about how fast you get it done, this, that, and the fourth. Those jobs, as you can probably see today, if you're in a situation like that, a lot of those jobs are starting to take the tech route, you know, AI and all that whatever bullshit that people have been worried about. But I remember one day I was testing them and I just stopped. And I asked myself, maybe, oh, and by the way, this was maybe a month after I had started playing piano, because I got my piano that Christmas of whenever I was 25 years old. And so I'd been playing piano for about a month, and that's whenever the chest pain started happening. And I stopped in my tracks and I asked myself, what do I like? You know, like, what do I like? What do I like to do? What do I care about? And then so I landed on shoes, because at the time I was a really big like shoe dude. You know, had to sell a bunch of them, and just due to this starving artist phase in my life. But I landed on shoes, and so from there, I ended up getting into an argument with Josh or Stephanie or some shit, and I told both of them that I was gonna smack the shit out of them. Now, to a certain extent, I could have maybe like controlled my emotions a little bit better or whatever, but I wasn't really the man that I am today back then. And then so I left. I just left. And as a matter of fact, that's whenever my best friend Dale called me. He was in the Marines, and he was on leave, and he called me. He was you know, they were going out drinking or some shit like that. And so it's weird. Like as soon as I left that job, that's whenever he called me and was like, "Hey, we're doing this, such and such." I was like, "All right, I'm coming." And so he came over to my house. My mom and them hadn't seen him in a little while, and so he came over to my house. And we went downtown, had a good time. This is back whenever I was still drinking. And then from all that, I went to the Journeys distribution center, which was actually a good job. And then, man, that's whenever my passion for piano and all that shit. I've been playing piano every day for the past since I got it in the mail. That Christmas, whenever I was 25, so maybe like 5 years. But that's whenever it was stronger than ever. I'm going ham, playing, and from there I got sober. And then not too long after that, that's whenever I got my vision. You know, it was a big weight off my shoulders, because I realized, like, oh, this is what I've always been meant to do. I haven't always given a fuck about too much, y'all. But if there's one thing I have always given a fuck about, is music. I mean, I've gotten in trouble for my addiction to music. You know, I've gotten so many headphones confiscated in school, and, you know, stuff like that. And you know, that's whenever it kind of hit me, like, oh, like, this is what I was meant to do. And even right now, it feels like I'm in a dream, because I can't believe that it seems like I was chosen. You know? Like, I feel like I'm dreaming even right now, because, like, I can't believe that, like, it really does feel like I was chosen to do this. But it does make sense, because everybody in my family is talented, just at different shit. My little brother Hendrix, phenomenal artist, you know, like with the drawing and the painting and stuff like that. My little brother Sebastian, phenomenal athlete, you know, he's 16 now. He's playing football, so he's really passionate about that, and that seems to be his calling. My mom, extremely gifted salesperson. My dad, extremely gifted at, you know, I guess, you know, what he was doing, which is, you know, the selling things, you know. He came out of prison and immediately got his own trucking business. And then recently, that's where I kind of put two and two together, that's where I get my defiance from, you know, that's where I get my distaste and my dislike for authority, you know, because he's always been his own boss, and so he's really gifted at what he does. And then my cousin Daniel, extremely gifted mechanic and painter, you know, he paints cars, he's really passionate about that. My little cousin Joseph, extremely gifted technician. My granddad on my mom's side, extremely gifted police officer. You know, I guess, you know, that's his passion. Armed forces. He worked for the Williamson County Sheriff. You know, he was the sheriff for them for what, 30 years. Eventually ended up, I think, being a detective. And then I went to my first funeral. Whenever this might have been 9 months ago, 8 months ago, I went to my first funeral for my Aunt Mary Margaret, which was my granddad's sister. And at that funeral, you know, it was kind of tough. You know, I'm not going to say why it was tough, but she had been the one raising her daughter's kids, you know, so it's, you know, little Noah and little Eden, you know, they showed up, saw her in the casket, started crying, you know, so, you know, that was tough to see. But then at the funeral, I ended up finding out that she played piano too. And she studied it. And she was an extremely gifted pianist. But I never knew that about her until she was, you know, gone, until I went to the funeral. And then that's kind of where it really hit me, like, oh shit, you know, like this is in your blood, you know, this isn't something that you just, you know, this isn't some bullshit, you know, like this is in your blood. And then come to find out, she was born, this is her, but then come to find out she was born on December 23rd, 19 something. I taped this shut so that I could, like, have it on my mural. Yep, so she was born December 23rd, 1951. The day before Christmas Eve. And this is after I've been playing Christmas music for God knows how long that I found that out. And so, like, what the fuck, you know? Like, holy shit. And so that's whenever I kind of figured out that this was what I was meant to do. And then one thing led to another, and now here I am with no other option but to do it. And I'm starting to think it's gonna work out. And so, yeah, kind of nervous. one of the only things keeping me strong is my fiance. And the fact that it's really not about me. Or the fact, that I got to keep that mindset. It's not really about me. It's about our future, my future, and the people that I love. And, so, yeah, we're going to do this. And hopefully everything works out for the best. Maybe 2 more songs to record, might add a bonus track. I'm starting to think that this is going to be done by Christmas Eve. I think that's whenever it's going to be released. I plan on doing my first show here pretty soon. I might start promoting right now. It is what it is. I don't think I can wait any longer. I don't think it'd be smart to wait any longer. But, yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. And that's a little backstory on how I ended up where I'm at. Just from asking myself those 1 or 2 questions. What do I like? And what do I want to do? What have I always liked ever since I was a small child? And I strongly encourage you to ask yourself this, the same thing. And, yeah, so we'll see where this all goes. I appreciate it. I'm gonna tend to her, and then I'm gonna get to work. And the project should be out Christmas Eve. So I appreciate it. And I hope y'all have a good holidays. Hopefully I will too. Yeah. Beethoven out.